technical difficulties and all that. These kind of things will happen, and into everybody's life, a little poop must rain. So, but the show must go on. Don't make me sing that song.
We won't.
Every time I mention song, though, it's the Ethel Merman in me wants to get up and start singing. So in any case, tonight we're going to be talking about speaking with your guides, something that I don't have a lot of experience with, but these two do. So I'm going to sort of sit back and let them handle the show. And if they need me to just nod and wave, I'll do that. So Genese, take it away.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to take it away. I am waiting for notes to load up, which is fantastic. Joel, do you mind just starting a little bit? Because seriously, my notes are gone. They're not loading up.
No,
I don't know what's going on with my computer. I give up on life. Of course, this is what's going to happen to me right now. So I was fully prepared. I made this whole outline and everything to talk about and questions and answers and yay. So
we talking to guides. So when you talk to your guides, not everybody's going to have, and I know we keep saying this, we say this a lot, everybody's experience is going to be a little bit different when talking to guides. For me, they give me impressions. They could be emotional or actual visual impressions, or psychic impressions of things that I should know. Let's say, so for instance, I was talking to a friend and I was visiting a friend and something told me, he hadn't said anything about it. He was seeing the girl and I came up to him and I don't know why. I was like, so, when are you going to ask to marry her? And he just kind of looked at me, was like, what? It several times, I've done that to him where he's like, yeah, well, I just got an impression that, how do you explain that? I just was shown this. I feel like this is what's going on. And he's like, yeah, well, funny you should mention that because that's something that I've been wondering about and we've been trying to work through. So for me, they come to me with impressions and show me things, unless, of course, I'm working in a healing capacity. If I'm doing a session with Reiki, there'll be times when they'll actually show me maybe an event, or they'll put my hands where I should be at, or they might whisper to me. So it really depends on how pertinent for me that they want me to get that information. Oh,
okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm good to go. I got the stuff up. I'm sorry it took so long. I don't know. This has been a weird day today, so sorry. Do you want me to start going, Sean?
Oh yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the main things that I wanted to bring up today was called calling cards. People call them signs from your guide or whatever, but calling cards is the common phrase that I've been taught, and that's been used amongst quite a few people in the spiritual community. And what it is it's basically a confirmation that you receive when you're working with your guides or dead person or whatever it is. People call them signs, but they vary from guide to guide and person to person. Do you want me to start off on how they work or just keep going?
Wherever. Okay, it's your show. I swear.
Okay, I swear. Sorry. So, so I think how they work is it's based on vibration or frequency that we maintain in this lifetime. From what I understand, that all of us have a gatekeeper guide that's with us from birth to death, and we have a set list of things that we wanted to learn, and we will be tested on them until the lesson is thoroughly set in. But don't be surprised if you still get tested every now and then. It's kind of to make sure that your resolve is still there or correct. Also, sometimes you have your perspective changes as you get older on things and you learn newer things. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so
Okay.
so
Well,
there's
asking me
that.
if it makes sense, unfortunately, is really kind of weird since, remember, I came late to the party.
Yeah, you were. It's okay though. It's okay. So it's just to make sure that you're steadfast, or if there's more to add to the lesson. The basic of calling cards is first knowing your energy, and the best way to know your energy is to meditate. I can elaborate that on that later. I kind of wanted to go over like the different clair abilities, because it seems to be that the most three common clair abilities that we talk about is feeling something, seeing something, and occasionally we talk about knowing or psychometry, but we don't know that we're talking about psychometry. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I've noticed. And also there's no like one right way to do this. It's just kind of like we're giving you like a starting point, like a jumping off point, and then you just take whatever from there. Like, like Sean and Joel, they've obviously read a lot of books. They've also had a lot of experience to base things off of, and they kind of like pick and choose what works best for them. They don't do everything the exact same way. Just like I don't do everything the exact same way these guys do. So, and then you'll just kind of find what works best for you or what you're called to do, and then go with it. The most common clair ability that people talk about is clairvoyance, and that means clear vision. It's seeing things with your third eye or without using your actual eyes. Clairvoyancy can manifest in several different ways. You can see numbers, words, or even people that you know and associate with, like your uncle or friend or aunt or whatever, or even somebody's rank. Like I have actually done a reading on somebody, and I didn't know I was talking to this woman's uncle. Instead, what I would see is somebody that I knew who was a colonel, and he was actually wearing the World War II uniform, and he had the colonel rank and all the little like medals and stuff. And that's how I knew that this guy was a colonel. And I was like, this is what I'm seeing, da 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 da. And then his face shifted to what her uncle looked like, no longer what my friend looked like. So it was kind of cool to like see that. But it's so I could get that association of what his rank was, where he served, when he served, and the timeline. And it's just what my brain could process and what I could give to her. There's also like objects that you'll see, and some people see like a little film in their head. Joel's one of them. Sometimes you'll see your guide, for example, talking to you, showing you things. Sean's had that happen with his guide. He sees her face change. He sees her hair color change sometimes.
Or she gives me that movie like before with the don't go in the mirror, and she gave me the three options. It's like, boy, all of these suck. This is like playing Dragon's Lair, where you die, or you die.
Yeah.
Which door do I go through?
Yeah, so
I
I mean,
go through any of them.
yeah, and the guys obviously have like different examples as well. And it normally seems like the information you're receiving isn't coming from you. So and also when you get this information, pay attention to the direction it seems to be receiving from. For me, my information comes in from my upper left. So that's how I know that I'm getting guidance from my guide. This is like the direction my information comes in. If it comes in this way, I know that it's my ego or just my perception. It's coming from me. It's not coming from my guide. So like pay attention to where it pops up. Some people also, like if they're predicting the future, they'll see it on their right or on their left, or they're seeing in the past. It'll vary. It's really interesting. Like I've learned that trick is like, you got to pay attention where the information comes from. So yeah.
Can I interject something real quick?
Yeah, fire away.
Okay. Well, in my case, it's if it's loud and it's unavoidable, then and I don't get a direction. It just comes at me, like it's like reaching forward, picking up something. It's a particular piece of fruit or something, and she screams, "Not that one!" And it's from everywhere at once. Sometimes I'll be like,
Yeah.
She combines though. She does the clair audio and she does the clairvoyant. So it's like two things at once for you. And I've noticed that too. A lot of people like it's normally a two combination, but we only focus on one of the things. So when it comes to like clairvoyancy,
she'll throw sometimes smells and tastes at me. Like
I was going to go over that too.
Sorry,
I got all this stuff listed. I'm ready to go. I swear.
I look like if I look at like an orange. I was looking at the oranges the other day. I'm looking at the navel oranges, and all I'm tasting is like I'm sitting there going, I can bad, unripe oranges. And I look at the mandarin ones, and it's like, oh, those are tangy and sweet. Oh, look, and they're seedless. I'll get some of those. You know, it's like she's feeding it directly into my head, and it's easier than going, don't get that one. It's like,
Yeah.
be jumping in the produce aisle. People are going to go, where's the rat? Where's the rat? You know?
Well, it's also the more you work with them, like the more other senses that they'll work on you with. So I'm not surprised that clairgustance is what she's doing with you. Clairaudient is the next one, which is clear hearing. Clairaudient. Everyone at some point has heard their name called out and no one's nearby to say it, or you're alone, right? We've all had that happen where you're just minding your own business. All of a sudden you hear your name and you're like, what the French toast? Where's this coming from? And
force, Luke.
Oh my God. And normally it's your guide trying their hardest to get your attention. Sometimes you'll receive this before an accident or something that could be a really bad outcome, or you're just not focusing and what's in front of you, and you could be in a meditative state. Like, because you know that for me, when I would go to work, it would just be kind of like I'm on autopilot and I drove and walked and didn't really pay attention that much. I just kind of did it, and I would get a lot more information when I was driving or when I was walking into my job because I was in this meditation and motion state. So I'm not like a lot of information would come in, and every now and then I would hear my name and I'm like, where the heck is this coming from? And it was my guide trying to get my attention, to get me to pay attention. I've heard of it happening to people to keep them from getting in accidents, to get them to focus on the road, to leave, you know, that whole thing. Let's see. There's other things as well, not just hearing your name, but you might hear music that randomly pops in your head. Or you might actually hear music around you, but there's no like clear place it can be coming from. That can be your guide trying to get your attention as well. And it's the attachment that you have to the music. It could be the actual theme of the song that is what's important to what they're talking about. Or it could be who's the song attached to, like that artist or whatever reminds you of this person, so on and so forth. There's also like a phone ringing, keys jingling, you know, clearing of the throat, and you're all by yourself, doors closing, or just hello. That's kind of creepy. Sometimes they're soft and sometimes they're loud and out of nowhere. I have a tendency to jump a little bit when it happens for me. So, and I'm not expecting it. Yeah. There are people that can just hear someone talking to them and it's just as clearly as you or I with someone like the person's right in front of them, but it's not coming from inside their head. It's a weird kind of way to describe it. Okay, let's see. Yeah, you're right in places. Okay. They can be associated with dead loved ones, angels, spirit guides. If you have this gift and go to a haunted place, don't be surprised if you're hearing things that nobody else hears. Like, yeah, I've known people that are gifted. They've gone to haunted places. They've heard horrible, horrible things. Sean's one of them. So.
Well, Disneyland's my favorite. I start zoning out, right? And that's when you're going, well, I've been there and I don't see that much. But I spend most of my time at Disneyland like this in line. And so, like, I'm not particularly thinking about anything. The lights are on, but, yeah. So I'm sitting there, right, and then all of a sudden Fess Parker and Buddy Ebsen go by, and my son's is like, are they going to do a reenactment, Dad? Nope, we're leaving.
You don't have feet, son. What?
It's like I don't see any feet on them, son, because of my cataract. So we know they're not really there.
They're not living.
Or there's this whole line of people trying to get the guy who's standing by Thunder Mountain. I described him perfectly to one of the people who was there that day, and it's like, yeah, okay. So then I looked up his picture. It's like, because they're trying to get him to come away from the ride, because he's staring at the place where he died, and there's 5 or 6 of them, and they're trying to lead him on towards the no joke, the haunted mansion, so that he can actually have something to look at. And there's a whole line of them stretched out between Big Thunder and past Pirates of the Caribbean. So. When you're just when you're just sitting there and all of a sudden you see things, you hear things, or like taste things, smell things. I've actually smelled putrefaction. I'm the only person who smelled it. That's not much fun.
Yeah, I was going to get into that too. Some people they can hear the the talking in their head, and it's like a buzzing noise as well. Like they feel it or they can hear it in their ears. The other thing I would strongly suggest talking about is mental illness, and to make sure that you're being checked for mental illness. Not trying to be mean, but schizophrenia is a thing. What do they call it now, though? Don't they call it like dissociative disorder or something like that?
No, that's multiple
No.
personality.
Okay.
Yeah.
So schizophrenia is still a legit thing, though. So it's...
And something that we really should go into as well is that, and they've actually put this into a new series that's on TV that I've been watching, which I'm really grateful for. They're actually showing this because I think I've said this on many occasions. Being gifted does not preclude you being, having a mental disorder, and having a mental disorder can also open you up without having gifts. And they actually showed that in this series called The In-Between. And I'm about 95% of it is accurate, scary accurate. And I'm really shocked at the fact that they did. Now, the reason I say 95% is because, they're going to link together the plot twists and the things to make the story create an arc. Because how rarely do you have one person you help arc to another, to another, to another? It almost never occurs. I think we were lucky in that we had two sets of people who had similar or had issues from the same particular area. That's it. And I'm not mentioning anything more than that.
Yeah.
But that's it. That doesn't normally happen. So this show literally shows great percentage of what we go through, especially for people who are just mediums who don't have the ability to defend. And it doesn't pertain to myself or to Joel or even to Genese. But it's for a great many mediums out there. These things can sometimes run roughshod all over them, especially as they're learning to use their abilities. So it's a great show. I highly recommend watching it.
Yeah, and I didn't know if I wanted to hand it over to somebody who's a health professional like Joel, who can talk a little bit about.
Well, yeah.
And his experience with that, I think it'd be a good idea.
Yeah, so it can be a thing, and I don't even know where to begin with that because there's just so much information dealing with how to know. Most of the people with schizophrenia that have a schizoaffective disorder, they usually know. They'll tell you a lot of times. Like if I ask somebody when I used to work at the mental health facility here, the local mental health facility in Chico, I would ask people who was hearing voices. I ask them, like, are you hearing or seeing things that's not necessarily there that other people aren't experiencing? And they'll let you know. And like, there'll be some people who have lived with it long enough. They'll tell you like, no, I'm starting to hear voices. I'm starting to hallucinate and hear these voices or see these things I know aren't real, that aren't really there. And it's really difficult, being gifted.
It's a catch-22.
Yeah, and working at a mental health facility and having these beliefs, you have to really think about it, and you have to listen to what they say. And then you ask them, and they'll tell you, like, well, these voices, they have, like, if they have command voices, voices telling them, like, do this, some of them would tell you, like, I know that's not real. I know that is a hallucination. But it really depends on like how far into the treatment they are and what they listen to. So like, if you are experiencing voices and things like that, find out, rule out the medical first. And then if it's not that, then I wish I could remember the phrase that Sherlock Holmes said, however inevitable.
Oh, I got it. Wait. This is my forte. I'm sorry. This is my jam.
Yeah. Cute, Sean.
When you gather all the evidence and sort everything out, whatever you're left with, no matter how unlikely or how it is, has to be the truth.
Yeah, and that's it right there. And usually, like your more gifted people, they'll know right off the bat.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that we touched up on this though as a distinct possibility, because and you know, Dee did bring it up and you brought it up too. It's totally possible for somebody to be gifted and still have this mental disorder. It is totally possible. So, but
and for instance, I got to throw this one in there because there are people who I've seen standing on the street and then having arguments, loud arguments, and I can tell when it's with nobody in particular. But I'm like a rare person because I can look at the person, go astral, and see that there's nothing. Including when Genese was having information come in from one of her guides. It's the first time I've ever looked at her when it happened, and it looks like fluffy clouds descend on the top of her aura right up around here. And so I've never watched her when stuff was coming in like that, purposely trying to see her aura. And if somebody's being menaced by a ghost, I'd obviously be able to see it because they'll be talking at it, and I'm going to see an echo on the street, even if they try to stay, hidden. I can expend enough energy to basically create a sonar ping, bing, and they appear. And so, but trust me that when we tell you, we can see the difference. Yes. When it's all in their head, that's the problem, because all in their head means they need to get medicated. So
yeah.
So, but yeah, I just wanted to make sure, like, for me, like, it was one of the things that stuck out last night / this morning when I was brainstorming about this. I was like, oh yeah, we got to talk about this. So, because this is a thing. The next one is clairscent or claircentress. It's the ability to smell something that is not originating from this plane. This one can be a little bit tricky to make sure it's not coming from you or anything physically like you have that's nearby you. I advise to look high and low before you state it's from the other side, especially if you live in a place that's attached to another, like an apartment, a condo, duplex, a casita, like that whole thing.
Proximity.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's, you got to make sure that it's not coming from outside into your place, and when you're nearby, and then just double check wherever it is, search high, search low. I know it sounds weird, but make sure it's not coming from you or from, next door. And then if it isn't, then, sweet, you've actually got something that is communication from the other side. Some of these smells can come to people with this ability for specific reasons. Cigar smoke is the most common thing that I smell, but normally it's because whenever I'm talking to somebody or a dead person, like, a cigar is associated with them, that cigar smoke, that cigar smell. So that's how it's like, oh yeah, this person used to smoke blah 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 blah. Who has a dead one, loved one that smoked these, or I can smell tobacco, cigarettes. Buttercream is something that I associate with my mom immediately. That she was a baker, she was a cake decorator, so that's like a comfort smell, and I know that it's her. Like, obviously I will check to make sure it's not nearby, but I don't have buttercream in the house ever because I can't stand the taste, but I love the smell. It's a weird thing. So I love the smell. Like, there's certain perfumes, like mothballs can be another one, rain, foods, or certain scents from cooking. So, and these scents will help identify the spirit or guide. Sometimes we'll get like a comforting smell. Like, some people can get super stressed out, and like certain smells will comfort them. And like, this is another thing that can happen where like the guide will actually send this smell to calm you the freak down, so you're not having an anxiety attack. Like, that is a possibility. They can do that. And then, it's to give you reassurance. Sometimes it can be really strong. Sometimes it can be faint. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is that when you are working with spirit or whatever, you can always ask them to like increase the intensity of the smell. If you aren't sure, or to decrease it if it's too much for you. You can always ask them to lessen it or increase it. Because some people don't know that. Another one is the clairgustance or clairsavorance, clear tasting, and that's from the spiritual realm. It's associated with a person, place, or thing without putting anything in your mouth, getting a sudden strange taste in your mouth, and you couldn't figure out where it was coming from. It could be a sign of someone that has passed away, letting you know that they're near, that a loved one is going to call or stop by soon, or it could be attached to a guide. Very well. Sometimes you'll get these tastes while you're working, and it could have something to do with your job, or just ask for clarification. I've heard of somebody that was a nurse, and they kept getting the taste of oranges in their mouth, And it was because of the patient that they were working with was low on vitamin C. But they didn't realize it until like 3 days after the labs came in that the patient was low on vitamin C. So, and that's why they kept tasting oranges in their mouth when it came to that patient, like something like that.
The beginning with me with Aramid to get my attention, and it finally it dawned on me why the hell it was always the same until I paid attention, is because the first time she and I had contact was when she saved me from that thing, and there was that wicked taste of fear in the back of my mouth, and so that's why I'd get that electrical taste of fear. And then when that finally went away, because we were able to talk much better, perfectly actually, that was the only thing she could think of to hammer home to try and get my attention.
Well, you also tasted copper and electricity.
Yeah, that's fear.
In the beginning with her. Okay.
Yeah, that's fear. That's that terrible fear. Because remember when the first time she bailed me out, and so I actually used to get this feeling of warmth on my wrists as well, which I had ignored, and she had to remind me about that, because that was when I was being pinned down and the thing was scaring the crap out of me before she touched me. Ding. That fear, the taste was in my mouth really heavy.
Okay.
And I'll segue into another way that they contact that I've been told about, as well as the ones that Aramid was doing over time. Once you're done.
Okay, and then there's clear empathy, or being an empath. Clear emotions, feeling others' emotions, their thoughts and personal energies within you. I wouldn't be surprised if you most people that have this normally have like some kind of social anxiety, or they've had it. Large crowds can be super freaking overwhelming for you. It's almost like you can't shut off the pouring of emotions that are coming through to you and filling you up, and it's overstimulating. It's hard to watch the news for people like this, or even drive past accidents. It's almost overwhelming. Or to be near the dead in their death state. I even wrote in, yeah. So sometimes it can hit you out of nowhere, and it can be overwhelming, joy, or crying fits. The reason will be revealed later on, and it's a little harder for you to differentiate between your emotions and their emotions at times. What I noticed that works for me or for other people is to walk away from that person for a while or area and seeing how you're feeling once you're away, like checking in with yourself, like leave the situation, take as far away from it as possible, and then see how you still feel. And you'd be surprised to realize that, oh my gosh, I'm taking in all of this energy, this information, these emotions. It's not me. And it's also sorry, more times. Let me think. And then it'll also be a great practice for you to get to know your energy and how it works. But once you get it down, it's actually a really good thing. It took me a while to adjust to the feelings and not become enveloped by them. It's like a check you do with yourself. If I feel this and it's not mine, I no longer wish to hold on to it, is what I'll say. And I'll just let it go through me, not become part of me. And it comes in handy because I've been in places where I could not leave the establishment, and this person made me feel like my heart was going to stop any minute, and I couldn't leave. I had to stay there. I was locked in there, and it was really hard, but thank goodness Chris was being the voice of reason, and he was teaching me how to like let it go through me. He's like, ground yourself, and grounding me wasn't doing jack for me, but to let the emotions go through me was actually helping. And I learned that trick, and it's like, okay, and now I can actually be out in public places and not, become overwhelmed. And if I start to become overwhelmed, I got to like check in with myself and go, is this my emotion? No. Okay, cool. Let it go through me. And then, and it sucks when you have to be in that panic inducing energy. And I know Sean can definitely elaborate on it. I don't know if Joel can, but I do know that Sean can. So
yeah. Until I can get it under control, which takes me a few breaths. It's usually quite overwhelming. But that the whole passing through is was that something you learned from Chris, or was it something, because that's a thaumaturgical trick that the same thing for grounding out negative energies, not grounding it out, but making sure that you're not the ground, so that it just goes around and passes out.
Chris, it's weird. Like he has a lot of natural healing tendencies and a natural shamanic tendencies. They just kind of happen. So, and this was before, it's not like a book told him to do this. But yeah, he was like, just let it go through you. Don't let it become you. Trust me. And it's he's really good at catching me when I start to get too much, like spinning too hard. So, yeah. One of these days I'd like to have him on. I think it would be good for everybody, but whatever. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Joel?
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, that's a definite shamanic quality. Like he didn't read it, but he just kind of came to it. Yeah, that is like totally one of those shamanic kind of things where the guy just like, that's like one of those things, we get told, or our spirit animals, our spirit guides let us know how to do it, and we just pass it on, and it'll always be like when you need it the most, and it will be like for somebody else. Like a lot of stuff I learned not for me, but because I had to tell somebody else, and that's when they pass it on. And I'll usually know, for me, when I get information that it will just like pop into my head, and it'll be like a random conversation with the person. I know that is like my guys speaking through me, my higher self getting in touch with either the creative source, or my guys just like full on just like talking to me and just getting the information. And I'm like, okay, well, this is obviously for you. I'm not sure why I'm getting this information, but let me tell you, this is how it goes.
Yeah.
And one of the things for me, especially when talking about the first time I really start to get guides and stuff, I meditated, and I put out in the universe that I wanted to get in touch with my guides. I didn't have to do that with my healing guides, because that's a little bit different.
You're also a natural healer. So not trying to be like a brat, but no, really, like a lot of shamans are normally natural healers, and that's why it's so easy for them to heal.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to like take over, but yeah, I've noticed that it's like a natural calling. Like I was a healer before I was anything else. Like I was a healer. I would see dead people. I'd still have a hard time communicating with them, but I could heal. I could with touch constantly. Like it was always like a healing, and I didn't know I was doing it. And my hands would get super freaking warm when I would do it. I had no idea that like that was it. You're channeling it. You don't know you're channeling it. Sorry.
Yeah. No, totally. That's totally it. And as far as like when you become a Reiki initiate, a practitioner of Reiki, your guides come to you, and when you start doing your work, they just kind of are there, and you might not be in contact with them, like consciously contact with them at first, but they're there because you get that affirmation from your client that, hey, who was that was working with you? I felt you had somebody else come in here and was working with you. I want to thank them because that was really good. And you're like, no one. And they're like, yeah, it's like, yeah, I felt like 4 sets of hands. It was just me. And that's always the fun one. And so, with the Reiki, like I had like a whole nother team of guys that were coming, that was helping with me. So, it's a little bit different when you start working with healing and stuff, then when you start to ask for your guys to come, because I really did have to like really meditate and really get that to go. Some people have to do like a vision quest so they can figure out like one, their talent, what they should be doing, two, their guides. And that's like one of those things that I kind of didn't have to do too much for. It just kind of happened with me. So I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's my experience of how I got in touch with my guides. And I don't know, Sean, was yours something like that too? Or did yours just kind of just like, I'm here? Ha!
She's been there. It's just he was a little stubborn.
Okay, first of all, for Airmid, for the first signs that she was around were all those books that Julia kept getting, because she would go, Julia, you've left the sphere of influence of the negativity around Sean. I need you to get these books. And I actually, I went into my mind palace, as Karen calls it, a few days ago because I'm thinking to myself, I don't remember all the books that she brought, and I went through all the books, and several of them were actually on Irish deities. So when you were talking about all about Airmid and the others, of like, yeah, I remember reading. I remember all of this because I've read all of that before. So she was basically trying to say, hey, hello, I'm here.
I'm right here. Yeah.
And I didn't know. And then she's sending me all this information on what I'm supposed to do, what I'm supposed to learn, how I'm supposed to learn it, everything. It became, and then she would subtly, whenever I would be around someone who I knew was in need, I couldn't not keep to myself. And it was almost like a gentle push in the direction of talking to them. And I would all of a sudden begin talking, and I would hit on the subject of what they needed to know within 2 sentences. And this is especially because I'm working in nutrition and such. And I would give them information that they didn't even know that they were looking into, or something about health for a relative or a friend. And I found myself just going on just because I couldn't stop. My parents were really big about children should be seen and not heard. And if I said anything, my mom would punish me because, or verbally chastise me. And she did it. I mean, even around Joel, it's like, oh, doesn't he just yammer on? He just keeps talking like he knows what he's talking about all the time. And Joel didn't want to tell her. It's like, yeah, Sean rarely opens his mouth unless he knows what he's talking about. Imagine that. So, but I was forced to become an introvert. I'm not an introvert. I'm actually very extroverted. But Airmid would give me this. I look back on all the different occasions where she would just come in and just soothe me into giving them the right information. It was magical, and completely out of my control.
Sorry.
And then there's people who they've never been in contact with their guides ever. And their guides are like, you know what? Hey, there's the remote on the TV. Wake up, wake up.
Yeah, I was actually going to go over that. There's still more. Sorry. Like there's like 3 or 4 more Claire abilities. But yeah, go ahead. The Claire ability turning on the TV is not one I've ever heard of before. But okay, well let's go. Well, the next one is Claire cognizant or Claire cognizance, and it's clear knowing. It's when you know something to be true without knowing how you know. I know that just comes to you, and it's without a doubt it's true, even if you're not qualified to know. This can be tricky because sometimes it can be ego coming through, and it's up to you to test the theory that you know to be true by fact checking, like actual accredited fact checking, not Facebook sites. I can't stand it when people use Facebook sites. I'm sorry, it doesn't count. Look for legitimate fact checking.
And no Tumblr and no blogs.
Yeah, because, I'm sorry, any drunken chimp can write it down and make it look good. The difference in knowing abilities is that there's no fear behind the information coming to you. With regular thought, you're worried about being wrong. Be leery of coming across as a know-it-all, though. Be mindful of how you speak. This energy can be very clear to you.
That's how my mom always addressed it. So, yeah.
What?
That's how my mom always addressed it. It's a bloody know-it-all.
Know-it-all.
Yeah. Joel, how many times did you hear that?
My mother had this ability. Like, this was my mother's strong point. She would just state things, and they were facts, and it would drive me bonker balls because she was right. She was right every time. Like, there was one day I came home from school. By the way, I was very weird as a child. Didn't have a lot of friends. But this one day I came home from high school, second day of high school, and I was like, Mom, there's this weird girl, and she wouldn't stop talking to me, and she annoyed the snot out of me. And she's like, oh, you're going to be best friends before the year is up. And I'm like, yeah, like a week later we were best friends. And like this girl helped me come out of my shell and talk to people and socialize and all that. But like, she knew so much, and she would just pull random facts out of nowhere. And then she had like this like I love it that I'm getting confirmation while I'm talking about my mother. She had this very like certain way of talking, and it's like, and it was just very true. And sometimes it would almost be prophetic. So that was her gift. The next one is clairsentient, physical mediumship. It's normally referred to as like the gut feeling. It's when something is off or you don't feel like you're safe. So you leave, and if you had stayed, something terrible would have happened to you if you did, if you had stayed there. From what I understand, it's most people have this ability, get a lot of confirmation in their gut. I've also noticed that they can develop tummy issues like later on down the line if they don't listen to their body or their guides. I would not be surprised if this person can feel when they're being watched. I feel you. It's not bad like it seems. There are feelings that you get when you meet someone and it's a genuinely good person. They feel good to you. It might be like this light and airy feeling or tingling throughout your body when you first meet them. Sometimes it's your soul tribe that you're meeting. And, but we'll go over that like another day or later on down the road.
That's like Joel and I right there. Every time we were around each other, it was like,
yeah.
My finger that way.
But yeah, it can be like you're meeting your soul tribe, and that's why it feels like it's that kind of just it's almost like home, or it could, or you can meet someone and they make you sick to your stomach, nausea when they're near, pressure throughout your body, a sinking feeling. The pressure hits me hard when I feel into people's energy and they're lying, or what they're doing is off and it feels dirty to me. Like I've talked to other mediums and it's okay, I'm not attacking, but I do notice that there are a few of them out there that come from ego. And when they're coming from ego and not from a place of service, I feel sick around them. I can't handle it. I just feel off and I feel dirty. So, and it just bothers me though. Yeah, it can apply to guides as well. There's normally like pushes and pulls inside your body. Examples that I've had is like for each of my different guides, they give me different sensations. Like my main guide, when I initially started talking to my gatekeeper, I got the feeling like I just got off the teacups. For my healer, I would feel like I'm completely outside of my body, like a good 20 feet in the air, like extended. And then it feels like my arms are crossed over and they get really warm. My messenger, my hands actually tingle all the way from here to here. And it kind of feels like pins and needles. So it's a weird kind of feeling, but that's how I noticed the difference between them. I know you guys have, like examples as well for this physical mediumship. I'm not making this up. I know you and Joel have had examples. So
yeah. When Airmid wanted my attention, or if the elementals are going, hey, you know what? We don't normally talk first, but my ears will ring sometimes, or if it's I'm around something that's dangerous. And Joel and I I was with Joel for quite a few of these when I was younger. I would get this complete uneasy feeling like something, I was just, we're in the wrong place at the wrong time. We need to get the hell out of here. And, went running back to my home to find out that my mother was about to take off to go to the Red Cross because there was a disaster in the area and that kind of thing.
It's funny because I don't even know if we can.
I love it when he starts off like that. Sorry, go ahead.
So a lot of times what ends up happening to me is like I'll get an odd feeling to be someplace or I'll be compelled to talk to people about stuff that I normally wouldn't talk about, especially in a hospital. And then it'll come out like, oh yeah, there you go. It's like, okay, well, here we are. So now that the awkward part is over and we started this conversation,
let's go.
Let's get this thing going. And
exactly.
It's so funny because like at first you would think like, wow, somebody I've had patients. I've gone in there. I've been like, yeah, so how you doing? My name is Joe, blah, blah, blah. This, that, another thing. How you feeling? And they'll be like, well, I'm a little bit off. It's kind of weird. It's not really a physical thing. It feels like something is like actually, and I'm like, oh, here we are. So yeah, let's talk. I'm the guy.
Awesome.
I'm the guy.
That's awesome. But it's great because it's you're put there on their path to help them get to where they need to go, and it's to me, it was so comforting to meet somebody else out there that was like, oh, me too. you're not that weird. Because for the longest time, all you have in your head is, I'm so freaking weird. I am so freaking weird. I talk to rocks. They feel good. Like anybody looking from the outside, it's like, what's wrong with you? Or I don't trust that person. They make me sick to my stomach. There's something wrong with him. And when he talks, I hear like static in my ears. Well, that person was a serial killer. That's why you felt that, Genese. What the French, but it did pay off. It did tell me the truth. There was something off about this person. There was one of the guys that was part of the group that was actually molesting his daughter. And I couldn't understand why I felt so sick around him all the time until things came forward. And it was just like,
That makes sense. Yeah. The other thing I have a pretty intuitive wife who, like, if I ever had a question about a person, like I might say, like, this person feels a little bit off, and she'll, like, she's the verifier. She is like, I'll be talking to somebody, she'll be like, no, honey, come away from this person.
Wow.
They're a murderer.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have my life insurance on you yet. Come over here.
Oh my God.
If you guys keep talking to him, I need to up your life insurance.
Oh my God.
So that's always a pretty crazy thing. But yeah, no, it's funny because, like, I know it's like if I know something, like if I know, like, get an answer and it's like, that's it. I know, and it's like something that's not in my wheelhouse. I know where that came from. I know that's my guys talking to me.
Yeah.
And I think it might be a familiar thing because my mom and I would always, like, I would think about my mom and she'll call me as soon as I start thinking about her.
Yes, that's another thing. Like, you can, that's one of the abilities. Yeah. Like, if you think too hard about them, all of a sudden your phone's ringing 5 minutes later and you're like,
yeah.
So I was thinking about you. How'd you know?
Or they think about you and suddenly they see you.
Yes. Yeah. I've had that happen.
Yeah. And I'm getting to that point. Like, I know my mom's been bad mouthing me because I've been having a strong urge to call her. I can just feel it.
My ears burned, and that's how I know that it's family that's been talking about me too much. And then
old wives tell.
But it's a thing. No, once my ears start burning, I'm like, oh, it's my family. I know they're talking about me right now.
When my family does that, it's a feeling like being heart sick.
Oh.
Like, and I know, because I know when they're doing it, I just get really heart sick and down. I know, I can actually tell you which persons are doing it and how much. But it's an ill feeling for me.
I understand.
Yeah.
The last one is clairtangency or psychometry, which is called clear touching. Yeah, I love this too. I love this ability. It's using your ability to touch and interpret the energy in the object. It will give you info that you did not previously have. This allows you to learn the history of the object and the people connected to it. It's commonly associated with objects, but it can also work on people. Like, have you ever brushed against someone and then gotten a picture in your head about them, or felt the physical ailments or their emotions? That's psychometry at work. It was the coolest thing I've ever had done to me in my life. Like, I'd never heard of psychometry until 4 or 5 years ago. And I was out to dinner with 3 other mediums, which that's a good topic.
What?
It was
sounds like a joke. 4 mediums walk into a bar.
Right? Like, this is totally a great joke. No, it was Daphne, it was Carrie, it was Andy, and all 4 of us are here at having dinner, and they talked about psychometry, and I was like, I've never heard of this before. What the French toast is this? And, like, they have me close my eyes, and, like, one of them puts a set of keys in my hand, and I, like, feel it, and I get, like, all this information. I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm free, and I can just see, like, all the trees around me, and I feel freedom, and I just feel happy and exhilarated, and, like, I can see a plane going by, and she's like, yeah, these are the keys to my plane. And I had no idea. And then just, like, I felt the heaviness in this necklace and all the emotions that was attached to it, and guilt, and, like, it was crazy to get up all this information, and I had no idea what they were putting in my hands. I made sure my eyes were closed the entire time. And then it was like, yeah, you're correct. You're correct. You're correct.
So, Sean, take it away. How did I find out about
I know
this?
it's not fun for Sean.
Dang rock. So now I have to tell everybody how Joel found. What's these rocks? I got this rock. This rock. I feel this from it. So you put it in my hand. What do you feel? It's like, and I have to look at the rock. So it's like, what do you get out of the rock? I don't know. I have to look at it. Right. So
yeah. Well, I think the first time was I was over there and I had just been over to my cousin's house, remember? And she worked at like Lockheed or someplace like that. It was my second or third cousin. And I was telling her like I was having these dreams and stuff, and she wasn't totally believing in it. And then she gave me a picture of her coworkers. She wasn't in it. She just gave me a picture, and there was like 12 people in there. I got 10 out of 12 right about behaviors, personality, and just like thought patterns, except for 2, which I had reverse. I had those 2 reverse, and she was like, okay, there might be something to this. Have you told your mom? Have you told Ethel? I was like, yeah, kind of. And I talked to my mom about it. And that's when she started getting me hooked up to like the Shirley MacLaine story, and she just let me just go buck wild on all the ESP books and stuff like that, and just finding out about it. That's the first time I found out that the U.S. had experiments on ESP. That was the first time I knew that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. There was a guy that I follow, top fives, and he actually did like this whole long show on how the US experimented on ESP, and so did Russia. And like checking out other people's locations, and like it's really
remote
really cool. Yeah, remote viewing. Yeah, it is so cool to like see this information, how long they went into it, and how accurate some people were. Like
creepy accurate. There it goes. Yeah. There it is, right there.
That was a funny movie. I loved it.
That was a great movie.
And the fact they had Ewan McGregor in it was really apropos.
Yeah, and there was an anime that talked about it too, so it's kind of interesting that all that stuff was going on. But yeah, so
okay, so now I got that stuff. I have to ask. So okay, psychometry, getting all that information. So why is it sometimes I get the heavy visions when I'm looking at things? Sometimes I just get dragged right into it, and then pictures too. Why is it? Is that also part of the guide thing, or is that just
that's part of psychometry. It could be, like there's going to be imprints on objects. Yeah, there's imprints on objects. There's even imprints on people. That is possible too. So it's just
because that's how all mine work is visual.
I'm not surprised though.
But that's kind of like where you are. Because for me, it's touch because I deal with vibrations. Yeah. That's just me. Most of my input is vibration. So yeah, Dee says you're a heavy seer type, which yeah, totally. Yeah. I'm surprised, like when you do tarot cards, you don't get like the
visual
imprint. Because when I'm too
busy trying to learn what the cards mean for me to actually have done any readings with it, and I know that that's one of the things that Erin wanted, or else that wouldn't have been one of the damn books that she sent me. Of all the books that she sent me, that's the one I still have because Julia didn't manage to get to those to throw them away. Okay, this is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, remember this one?
I remember that
because I was reading it so often. I had to get it rebounded at the Renaissance Fair so that I could actually keep on reading it.
One of the things that I learned about that is a lot of times, like that's a good guide, like textbook way to do it. But I would meditate with the card. With
how damn literal I am. They don't say meditate with the card here.
Yeah, they don't. It goes like, okay, here's the thing, Joel. Like when I pull cards, and I do tarot readings, like I'll pull them and I put them down face down, and I will feel the top of the card, the bottom of the card. and like it tells me whether it's supposed to be flipped over like this or like this, because it's different. And it's whatever feels right is how it's supposed to be flipped over, and then like going in that direction. And then there's times where I actually touch the card and I will get emotions or I'll see stuff.
Okay,
but
so
it's not like that all the time. This was something that it just happened.
Yeah.
I have to throw this out because these cards. Okay, this was the last deck of cards that they had at this one shop, and every time I even think about
I
that,
remember.
my third eye automatically begins to go at high speed. Like even right now, I can actually feel it moving and getting ready to go at super high speed. Just touching the darn things sets me off, sort of like looking into the scrying pool. And it's a very powerful sensation. And I can also smell books, tomes, musty, and it just, and it this becomes overwhelming, like I've suddenly been thrown into a library, almost like when I go into my sanctum, but against my will. It's something that just happens.
Is that the Five of Wands that was there?
No, this Fool card.
Oh, the Fool. Okay.
And then the Hierophant. Strength. Magician. Yeah, so I have it set up so that all of them were in order, so that when I shuffled them, they would be 100%, shuffled. So.
Yeah, that's why I like runes, because sometimes you just pick the runes. They'll put it like sometimes I'll go in there and I'll try to pick one out, and I end up with like 3. So that's part of the reading. That's a whole different story.
So Erin is to pay attention to this. She's been pushing me over and over again.
It's also like it's in time. Like, did you tell Sean what happened when we were looking at somebody's brother's place, and you and okay, he was starting to describe the place to me, and all of a sudden I was transported there.
Wait, you said, did I tell Sean? You mean, did I tell Joel?
Joel, sorry. It's been
we look so much alike.
No.
Yeah, we're like brothers.
Oh my God, I'm trying not to cut it. All right. Smart Alex. No, but did you tell him about what happened? Like, I could see what was going on in that place. I could see the ghost and it phasing between 2 different people, but you could see more than I could. Like, I could only get fragments of what I was seeing, and it's like we were connected, but you got more visual this time. Like, it was almost like culmination of powers, like gifts. Sorry. But yeah, like it seems like your stuff's still coming in. You're still working on it. It's still getting better. So I just think it's, yeah. Everything happens in time when it's supposed to. But what do I know?
Done with me. That was it.
Looks like Buddy Christ. Who's that?
Buddy Christ.
Buddy Christ. That.
Yes! I love you, Duck, for that Jay and Silent Bob reference.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And then I have to.
We actually have that little mini statue in our house of the Buddy Christ. Like, it's this big.
I
and
should
it
let
hangs
my
out with
hair
our
grow.
DVDs.
I should let my hair grow out again, so then I definitely look like. But I have the hair down to here. But everybody was giving me crap over how long my hair was. Oh.
We should probably wrap it up because we're cutting into.
Well, actually, it looks like Brett started earlier. He actually started 3 minutes after we did.
Yeah,
yeah.
He's doing a remote thing. So.
Shoot. And I need to thank him for that article about the long hair, because it makes sense while I'm growing my hair. For some reason, I just decided that I was just going to grow my hair and do the locks. And then he put that article out there saying that, which makes sense, the Samson story in the Bible.
Yeah.
Lost his power, lost part of his intuition, because evidently they have tied long hair to intuition. I did not know this.
Interesting.
Probably why she knows who's the axe murderers in my friend pool, and I don't. So there we are.
Okay. So sorry. So the next thing, sorry. So what are guides? Guides can be people that have lived on Earth and passed on. They can be angels, they can be ascended masters, they can be animals, gods or goddesses. However, guides can never be taken away from you. I don't know where this idea came up. It's weird. They cannot be taken away from you, because the definition of a guide is somebody that has has gotten up way past ascended master level, and they're able to guide multiple people. So they can be anywhere and everywhere. Like that's the omnipresent ability. You can level up, you can get new guides or have some that are with you just for a season, but they cannot be stretched thin. They have the ability to be there for you as well as others in multiple times and places. Like I said, the true guide is omnipresent, or else they would not be a guide. A guide is someone who advises or shows the way to others. They should never be like fear wrapped around your guide. There's secrecy and fear should never enter the equation with your guide or any guide. If it does, do not associate with it. Guides never promise you things. They will not ask for favors, and they will not say, just trust me or let me in. They don't say those things. That's not a guide. There are no such things as contracts with them. That's the other thing that feels dirty to me. Be very specific in your wording when you're working with your guides, and ask your guides, and when you're working with them and when you're asking of your guides. I normally always ask for like the highest and best possible outcome. That's like my default wording, because I don't want to affect anybody in a negative way. The other thing I always suggest is, treat them like a person. Say please and thank you. Like, when they help you out, say thank you. Or when you're asking for help, please, please is really important.
Acknowledgement.
Yeah, acknowledgement is very important, and it makes them feel good.
I can't even stress that enough, because
Yes.
if you are asking them to come into your life, or they come into your life, there's a reason you have to acknowledge them. Because if you don't acknowledge them, then they need to know that you're paying attention.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the easiest way. It goes a long way, and that's how it builds that rapport, and it'll help get you those better results that you are looking for.
Yeah, they cannot make you do anything. You have free will. They are here to support and encourage you, not coddle and carry your butt. So I needed to say that. Like, there's some people that have this misconception where they're there to coddle and carry their butt, but no, they're there to support and encourage. That's what they do. One of the things I always suggest is holding space for your guide. Like, if you're going to actually try to contact your guide by holding space for them, you start off by asking your guide to step out of your energy and focus on how you feel, what you see, any of those clair abilities. Like, focus on any kind of shift or change in that. And sit with it for a bit. And then when you can feel the difference, or you're aware of the difference, or whatever it is, then ask them to step back into your energy and then see what's different again, and go through all those clear abilities. And I would suggest doing this like a few times. And that'll give you a good idea, because number one, that'll get you in touch with what your energy feels like, what your energy is. Like, you'll know the difference. And then number two, you'll be able to like spot your main guide and what they feel like, or what they are, like the other clear abilities. I always go with feel, because most people I know, they're like, oh, I feel this, I feel that. So it's pretty common.
You might be empathic. You're pretty empathic too, so that would make sense that you go with feel.
There you go. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So
with Airman, it's just a matter of whenever when she contacts me, it's usually to scold me about a piece of fruit or something, or when I'm asking, I ask her for assistance. I'll ask her specifically, can you help me? Or I specifically will ask her. It's conversational with her. She in her private moments, it's like she'll help me. And I say, "Love you, Mom," because she said this to me. I'm going to try not to cry now. I have a horrible family. If you haven't gotten that from everything that I've said, my family is really horrible. And I said, the first time that she and I had a nice long conversation, I said, you feel like what a mother should be. She said, I've loved you since before you had the ability to draw breath. And I knew that you needed my help even when things didn't want me around. And I spoke with your grandfather, and I kept your mother from doing terrible harm to you. And who's your mother if not me?
Yeah.
And it, if it wasn't for Genese, I wouldn't have actually opened up to talk to her, because I was so resentful of all the hurt in my life. It was really bad. Joel can tell you the onslaught was minute to minute, and they rarely hid except when people were around. So I think she and I have a very different kind of relationship, because we should have been talking more for longer, and she had to figure out how to get the signals in around all the interference. So, I mean, I had a stack of books just like this. This was just one of 20, 30 of them. That's the one I was able to keep.
Yeah. When you talk to your guy too, I like with Genese. I forgot about that technique. I'm glad you mentioned that technique.
The feeling your energy in that whole thing.
And the stepping out of, yeah.
Yeah. I forgot about it too. Like I had to be reminded as well. Like it was because I was writing all this up, and Chris is like, "Don't forget that trick," and I was like, "Shoot," because I completely forgot about it. I was like, "Doop doop." Oh yeah. I had to do that in the beginning to feel the difference. Otherwise, I had no indication what the difference was when my God was in my energy and when my God wasn't. So yeah. Like I'm like, well, duh, and it's like, well, that's so obvious, but it's not so obvious because
it's not. It's not. And the other thing I was going to say is like, how you say like you get your information from one area, you can ask your guy to like sometimes they will choose a side, but if you don't have a definite side where they're at, where you can feel that energy, you can ask them to appear to you on one side or other, or front of or behind. That way you could tell. It's like, if you're for my God, would you please appear here?
Yeah.
This is your space.
Yeah. And the other thing is I gotta say this: don't be attached to the outcome. So there was somebody that I used to work with where she was just so upset about her mediumship because of her clairvoyancy wasn't that great, but she had 3 other abilities that were kicking on really quick and very accurate, but she was so set on her clairvoyancy not being so high, and she wanted it to be like, well, I don't see them. She wasn't focusing on the fact that she was tasting things, that she was smelling things, and that she was hearing things. Wasn't focusing on those 3 things. It was always like, well, I don't see it. And it's like, but you're getting 3 other senses, aren't you? And she's like, well, yeah, but those are late. Well, no, you got to go with what you know. And you got to acknowledge, the information you're getting. And then once you do, then they'll work with you on other stuff. But it's baby steps. You can't freaking fly before you start crawling. Like,
you might not be ready to see the stuff they're ready to show.
Exactly. And sometimes it can be too intense for you. So that's why they're easing you into this stuff, because, it's like, well, now you can see, and you just saw somebody missing half their head. No, thank you. I'm done. There's Sean's face. And that's, We've
had a lot of people say, but you guys can do, Sean, you can see. I wish I could see. Well,
he's like, no, you don't.
No. Yeah.
Oh, y'all are crazy. He's like, oh, I wish I could see like you. Oh, it's here. Have them. I'm telling you, like when I was losing that ability, I'm like, oh, I think I just have to get used to the reality it's going away and work on my other abilities so I can, piggyback through somebody else's vision. No, it's not always the best thing to do, to be able to see the things I've seen. Some of the stuff I'd seen, I didn't even know were ghosts, right? I mean, not bad, could sense something as I was getting older, but the things that you end up seeing, you never forget. I'm going to be talking to a counselor for the first time on the 12th of September, so that she can walk me through some of these nightmares. Like when my brother pushed me down a coal scuttle. First thing I saw was the guy's eye shining in the dark. Okay, and then I got to think about something.
Top hat.
Boy,
Top Hat Lurch.
See, Top Hat Lurch.
That's a good one. That was
a hilarious one. We're gonna actually make a movie.
Yeah, but still, like when you're in the moment driving, you're like,
Joel was with the camera. Joel was terrified. Joel, I can understand Joel was terrified, but he's so
because you was asleep. And I didn't stop, and there's a guy in the back of my car. The first time I picked up somebody without a body in the back of my car.
Joel was Billy D smooth. I woke up, like, oh, he's not scared. I'm not going to be worried about it, right? I don't find out till 20-some years later he was dropping a load and just holding real tight with his butt cheeks pinched, like, And he's driving. I had no idea. You know, how am I supposed to know? So he's just playing cool. He's playing so cool, I couldn't even feel it.
You know, when people say they pooped themselves, I literally probably pooped a duplicate of myself, and that's what was driving. I'm pretty sure I had like an out of body moment where I was like, I don't want to.
What do you see in the back?
Everything clenches tight. And I'm trying to keep it PG right now. But yeah, I know what you mean. You're like, nope.
I'm out.
First thing I get told is like, Sean, look in the back. You know, wake up. Look in the back and see what you see. When did you stop the car, man? Like, I didn't stop the car. It's like, why'd you let someone on? Seriously. How'd you do it? You didn't move my seat. It's like, why is this dude sitting in the back? And he's see-through. It's like, come on, man. And
what does he want? You ask him. I don't know. He's not answering me, so your turn.
And it was somebody from, believe it or not, because we went past Truckee. That's the Donner Party. Somebody from the Donner Party was like, "Hey, beware hitchhiking ghosts."
Yeah.
And gets on board.
What does he want? Well, I woke you up so you can ask him. Actually, is why I woke him up, so he can ask him what he wanted, so I can figure out how to get him out of the backseat of my car. I don't want to have a haunted car for the rest of my life. I thought I was going to have this car forever.
Yeah. And
not what you want.
The dude just kept on.
I'm not going to sell it.
Even real. It was
the
funny.
guy with the top hat. Does he come with the car? Yes, he does.
And the entire time he's seated like this in the back.
Yeah, I know. And he was rolling his eyes when you guys were trying to talk to him, like totally ignoring you.
Yeah. Going like, he's looking at, like, this is him looking forward. Is it?
Okay, somebody just asked a question. What are the best and worst foods to eat before talking to your guides in case of... I'm not going to answer that. Yeah. Okay, here's the thing. There are some people in the spiritual community that swear by being vegan. That's their bag. That's cool. That works for them. You know, hey, I don't judge. But honestly, supposedly, like if you eat fruits and veggies, that's supposed to be helpful to get you elevated. Meat can be very grounding. It's just, I advised against heavy, greasy food if you're going to meditate, because it will ground you. It will make you very aware of your body and make it a lot harder to sense anything outside of it or within it. And all you feel is that heaviness. So pay attention to you and how you feel after you eat certain foods. If you feel tired or lethargic after eating certain foods, avoid those. Like, honestly, avoid those before you do meditation. And if there's any kind of foods that you just feel really exuberant or exhilarated with, go with those, because that'll get you more in tune with stuff, and then you'll be able to feel other things around you. And drink lots of water. Water is your best friend. I don't know how many times I can stress that. Water is your best friend. Please drink water. And you will want to drink a lot of water after you're done, because holy cow.
See, and then there's somebody like me who's going to tell you, Joel has made me a steak, and I've eaten that steak, and then I got real meditative and got to a very nice place. So it's all depends on you. Find out what you feel. Okay, it's all very personal. I know there's some people who swear by eating bananas. I don't know what to say about that.
It's different people are wired differently.
Lack of minerals. Listen to your body. Your body's going to tell you what you need to get into that balance.
Joel just said, yeah.
So it can be where you need to be.
Yeah, listen to your body. It tells you what it needs.
If you're thirsty, drink. If you're hungry, eat.
Well, actually, drink before you get too thirsty, because by the time you're feeling thirsty, you're already getting dehydrated. So drink regularly so you don't quite get there. This is from the health professional who works with food all the time.
I'm from Arizona. It's ingrained in me to drink water every 20 minutes. Like that's just life. You're with water all the time and always having to pee constantly. So hence why I had to leave in the middle of this while Joel was talking, and I'm like, I can't wait anymore. I'm sorry, guys. I'll be back. So yeah.
Okay. So any last minute questions before we take off?
Yeah. But again, I need to enunciate. I'm not ragging on anybody that's a vegan. If you're a vegan and it works for you, cool. If you're a carnivore and it works for you, cool. Like, it's your body knows what it needs. So
Yeah, just
please
don't
go with
ignore the
that.
signals. Really,
Yeah.
don't
And if you're
change.
diabetic, don't be an idiot and keep ingesting sugar. Like,
Yeah, and don't change what you see to suit what you want. Okay, that's blinkering yourself and called confirmation bias. Don't just let the data come in, evaluate it, and then work with it honestly, completely honestly. Because if you don't, you can completely confuse the entire subject, the entire situation, and come out with the wrong answer, trying to convince yourself, well, but I sense so this must, and you will keep the circle going forever. Please. So,
like later on down the road, I'd like to do one on like yeses and nos
okay.
with your guides, like what's a yes, what's a no, and then like go from there. That would be kind of cool. But we can talk about that off.
See, I feel like I've been handed the keys to the empire because she just talks in full sentences at me. She doesn't just do yeses and nos. No is don't do that. It's like put down the fruit.
I don't get yeses.
Well,
I get like very definite impressions.
See, I get when I get confirmation, I get goosebumps. That is my confirmation. And it's not like a light no, it's throughout my entire body and it's very strong. And then when it's a no, it's just nothing. It stops. And I'm like, well, that's a no. But it's different for everybody. So, and I understand why you get full sentences, you like words, Sean. So that makes sense.
And when you guys were talking about directions, now though the elementals are not guides, usually speaking, I get them from the directions that are aligned with them, which is going to be
north, south, east, west.
Yeah, north, south, east, west. East is aerial, south is pyre, west is aquaticus, north is chunk. And when they talk at me, that's the direction I normally get them from. With one exception, they always seem to come from that direction. The exception is when I'm trying to take a family photo, then they're all in the camera like this. I got pictures. Lots of pictures to prove it because I keep going, get out of the picture, get out of the picture, get out of the picture, get out of the picture. If you don't get out of the picture, I'm not taking any more pictures. Get behind the sofa. There's still some of you in front. Okay, now I'm snapping the picture because they're all behind, except for one who's floating like this right here.
Good show on getting to know one's guides. I'm closed off on the subject of external beings, so start simple, and I'd be willing to entertain the thought. Yeah,
we've done quite a few.
Yeah, but this is like sorry, I had hair in my mouth. This is like the starting point of like getting familiar with your energy, and then being familiar with your main guide's energy. And then once you get familiar with that and getting to know the different abilities, then it's like fine-tuning it from there. And then obviously on we go to the other stuff.
Yeah, well, definitely. This is definitely like a bigger conversation than what we could have.
Okay, right. So we're closing this up now. Next week, we're going to be doing readings. Are you going to be here, Joel, or you got to work?
Let me look at my schedule.
Okay, so next week we're going to be doing readings. I'm going to be working on this because apparently Airmid's been wanting me to have this one in my repertoire for some time. So I'm going to be reading
up. Get out of your comfort zone.
Yes, I will be here.
And so
awesome.
We'll be doing readings. So we'll have several.
Awesome! Yay! Joel will be here too.
And Joel will be here. So bring your questions. We're bringing them early. We're going to start about 5:45, I hope. I'm hoping.
Sean's going to get a hold of Genese at 5:25, and I'm going to be here and be ready because I'm tired of my computer saying, no, I don't feel like working. So I'm sorry, guys.
Now, if we do get a late start because I'm taking my wife to the hospital, she's going to be getting a mammogram. And don't know how long it takes those technicians to get their stuff going. So if it gets a little bit late of a start, then I'll just let everybody know and we can push it back to the week following, which will be after I come back from my vacation. So let me close this out. If you guys like what you see here, if you like what we do here, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. We also have a PayPal to be able to, give us donations. As Peter Beckman said, there's no job too big, no fee too big. So waiting for the laughter.
Sorry.
Took a while for that. the laughs. No fee too big, also none too small. Everything helps, especially since we're getting cameras and I need to upgrade my microphone, so it will be great for the future. And the new service that we're going to be using through StreamYard does cost about $20 a month, so that we don't have to worry about trying to get systems to work with each other like OBS and Skype. Although those are options for the future. So check it out. If you want to donate, PayPal is in the description. Thank you very much, and stay blessed until next we meet.
Another one in the can. Love it.